As we mentioned, lawmakers today passed legislation to help address the state's housing shortage, but the legislature did not move on referring a measure to the ballot that would empower state and local police to enforce federal immigration laws. Mary Jo Pitzel covers the Capitol for the Arizona Republic and azcentral.com, and she joins us right now. Good to have you, Mary Jo. Let's talk. What happened today? That referral is big news. That could be on the ballot. That's big time. What happened today?
Nothing. And nothing happened today on what is called the border bill because the Senate yesterday could not agree on a product to produce and send over to the House to vote on. Today was going to be the final vote. They're going to send this thing to the ballot, and we'd be able to all voters would be able to decide on that in November. Instead, what we have is a proposal, House Concurrent Resolution 2060, for people that want to look that up, that proposes, as you said, letting state police and local police enforce laws against anybody who is found coming into Arizona anywhere other than a legal port of entry. A lot of people are saying, this is son of, Senate Bill 1070 from, more than a decade ago.
In many respects, it's kind of the grandson, because the son would be the Texas law, which was modeled in some ways after SB 1070. And now here comes us kind of, squaring the circle here? What's going on?
Well, I think Arizona's trying to follow in the footsteps of Texas. I think they call theirs the Border Invasion Act, and that's what an earlier iteration of this was called in an Arizona bill that got up to the governor's desk and vetoed. So now it has come back, somewhat altered, in a form that would go straight to the voters. So it bypasses Governor Hobbs' very frequent veto stamp. And it says if you have come into Arizona other than at a legal port of entry, then the state has the ability to detain you, and that person or persons can either self-deport or they will be imprisoned.
Okay, so something was supposed to happen today. It didn't. Did they even show up? Did the Senate show up today?
No, the Senate finished its work yesterday. Yeah. They stalled on this bill.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Why is this stalled?
Mostly because of Senator Ken Bennett, a Republican from Prescott. He's looked at this measure and outlined a lot of his concerns. A lot of them revolve around an amendment that was added to this bill last week, which sparked more debate. And he's saying, there's some things in there that I want to take out. Most specifically, as currently written, the HCR would require that anybody who's here under DACA status, the Dreamers who came into this country with that kind of protected status, that would be a defense against being detained unless the DACA law is repealed. And it's in court. It's possible that that could happen. And Bennett's like, look, no, we don't want to mess with this. The DACA protections were there. It brought people here legally. We don't want them to be punished retrospectively. He also has a couple of other concerns with the bill.
Yeah, losing immunity, the DACA folks would if DACA were canceled, arrest, deportation, a ball game. The other concerns, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like the idea of felonies involved. Was that part of the amendment? You mentioned an amendment that kind of stirred things up. What was that amendment all about?
I think the amendment was to put some more teeth into the proposal. And again, if this thing actually gets on the ballot, the way it's written now, nothing would happen until it's contingent on what happens with the Texas invasion law, which is now in court. So if the court upholds that law, then that would trigger Arizona's if voters so deem it. But the changes that were made last week put some more teeth into it. Bennett's saying, look, let's get this bill back to what it purports to be, which is a border bill, meaning it just focuses on the border. For example, he and others have argued, how would you know if you're driving around in Phoenix or, I don't know, Kingman or Flagstaff, how somebody got into the state, how they entered the state? They could have come in through California or through Utah or on a plane so it raises the question, and I think some of the sheriffs at a very long hearing last week all but admitted that they would almost have to witness someone coming over the border, around the wall, over the wall, through the wall somehow before they could detain them.
Yeah, and you'd as you mentioned, Kingman, entire state as opposed to the border. I also thought that he kind of had some problems with the idea that if you were deported, you would be deported to Mexico, even though that may not be where you came from.
Correct. So he's saying that that language should be changed to say return this person to their country of origin. He says it makes no sense to return them to Mexico because, I mean, just because of the geography of the border, they're going to be coming in from Mexico into Arizona.
The Department of Corrections is also kind of out there saying this could really impact inmate count, cost of care, and taking care of these folks. Is that playing a factor here as well?
Oh, I mean, well, not so much with the lawmakers that support this because they're like, we will always fund public safety. We'll find a way to pay for it. But there are concerns that if police do detain people for having come into the state illegally, that person, as I mentioned earlier, has two choices. You can self-deport or you can be locked up. Well, you know, so how's that going to work if you're up in Flagstaff and you get stopped? Are you going to tell the sheriff, yeah, I'll just self-deport and they'll let you just,
right.
Sure, fine, put you on a cab down to Nogales and just hope that they cross the border? I mean, there is probably the likelihood that some people will be detained. The Department of Corrections estimates it'll cost them about $250 million over a 5-year period at current rates of entry. And the counties, they're worried because this Department of Corrections is the backup for the counties, and the counties have basically said,
yeah,
we're strapped already. You know,
yeah.
I mean, they've indicated they're not going to have the capacity to handle this.
Greater Phoenix Economic Council says they have serious concerns about Arizona's brand, Arizona's ability to attract businesses. Is the business community starting to make some noise about this?
Yeah, some rumblings. You know, I think they're trying to be polite and work this behind the scenes. It doesn't always help to go real public with this, but there are concerns that this could hurt the state's image. Like, oh, here we go again. We don't like immigrants. You know, there are questions that are coming up now. If it's a family and you have to detain them, where do you put the kids?
Right.
You can't put children in prison. They must be separated from adults, and no one has an answer to that question.
Will we have an answer soon, real quickly? Is this going to make it without? I mean, Ken Bennett pretty much runs the show here, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, yes, but he could lose votes by getting the changes that he wants. He could lose some other votes.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Keep in mind, this is a bill that's going to pass only with Republican votes.
Yes.
Democrats have no interest in supporting it in any iteration. So you get Bennett on, you get your 16, but does somebody else fall off on the other end who believes that he's made it, you know, too loose, too mild?
Interesting, interesting. Mary Jo Pitzel, Arizona Republic, azcentral.com. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks.